Welcome and good evening. This is Raph from Adventures in DeFi Kingdom, streaming to you live high above the keep in the hot air balloon. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We have TitanTom. Titan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Raph. Thanks for having me.
All right, and of course, we have my fearless co-host, as always, Neindorf, back from his perilous journey from ETH Denver. How you doing, Neindorf?
Doing pretty good. Quarantined to the basement, though. Sometimes that happens when you're traveling.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope you're feeling better soon. All right. Well, TitanTom, how about you give us a brief intro on yourself? You are a admin on our Discord site, so big thanks to you for the support that you're providing to our Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms community here. So tell us about yourself.
Sure. So I am a professional poker player. Still play. That's my day job. Got into crypto back in the bubble of 2017, and got into DFK in the beginning of December. Started putting in more and more. Kind of rode the hype of the Crytalvale snapshot for a while, and then started rebuying more on this latest dip. And once I got into the community, I just, kind of just fell in love with everybody in the community, and saw how good of a job the devs were doing, and just decided, to I just gained more conviction over time, and just started putting more into my investment, and now I'm just kind of obsessed with DFK, and here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's obviously we're from a bit different walks of life, but I think we definitely mirror a very similar story, where very cautious into DFK at first, and then couldn't help but being sucked in the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm just getting involved in the community, and I've been listening to your podcast, and every bit of content DFK I can get my hands on, and everybody's doing a good job, and just excited to see the community grow.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're glad to have you. All right. So, one thing that I wanted to go through quick here on the intro, we are expanding our podcast network a little bit here in Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. We got a great Discord community, and we have a few members over on our Discord site, led up by Guy Kidd, who's also one of our admins. And go check out their podcast. They are starting the Bogside Chat podcast. Their information, it's on YouTube. I'm hovering over their channel right now for those of you who are watching us on the stream. And we'll drop a link to their podcast. So, do us a favor, do them a favor, and go subscribe, like, and jump into what they're working on. I'm really excited that we got more folks inside the Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms network, wanting to get good information out there to both our Discord community and the rest of the DeFi Kingdoms community. So go check them out, please. All right, Neindorf, give us the question of the day.
Yeah, so I feel like you turn around and you miss something. There's been all this talk about a PJ. What in the heck is a PJ? What is this on Discord I'm hearing about?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything. TitanTom?
Pretty sure it stands for peanuts and jelly.
Oh.
What about where's the butter? Come on.
I thought it stood for parental jerry raking.
Yes, that one.
All right.
No, I just had to be a little kind of funny on this one, because it's like all anybody can talk about now is, of course, the Perilous journey that's been announced. So, I'll give it back to you, Raph, but I just thought that'd be kind of a funny way to get moving today once we have all this information to get through.
Yeah, and we're certainly gonna dive into that. I think we're gonna go straight into reaction mode. We'll talk about dev dive here first, but we don't really want to jump into the details on the Perilous journey. You can go find that information on the DeFi Kingdoms docs page. We're gonna just do some hot takes here. So, all right, let's first go to the dev dive. Neindorf, you got some really exciting things going on. Why don't you go ahead and let us know what you're working on.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to welcome all the new people who've joined the podcast as subscribers, and I got to give a big shout out to Sandwich Punch and Baby Punch and his crew because they gave us a pretty good shout out on their cast, and now we've noticed a bunch of people who have said, hey, I didn't realize this tool was out there. I'm really enjoying it now. So I really want to thank them for that exposure, and well, like I said, we're really just trying to hook people up with these tools that are going to save you time. Honestly, that's the real motivation here. Is I don't want people to have to sit there and scrape the tavern for hours. Like that's just no fun. When you want to just be focusing on the gameplay here. So
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to start there.
Right, and you guys almost cross paths in East Denver, right?
Just about, yeah. Unfortunately, we were offset by about a day, and that was when the Fiat mine that brought me to Denver actually called me in later hours, so I wasn't able to catch up with those guys, but just about though.
Yeah, too bad. Well, hopefully we can catch up with them soon, and maybe have them back on the pod, and maybe join theirs as well.
Yeah, you bet. So the next thing, just some minor quality of life improvements. I've had some good suggestions from people in our community. So some of those sorts of things have been rolling in, and you might see a few minor tweaks. But I think one of the big things that we're working on lately, there's really two things. Raph, have been working on the Power BI reports, and I'll let you touch on those. And then I have been working on getting Discord DMs instead of instead of emails for alerts. So if you want to touch on the BI reports, I'll collect my thoughts here on the Discord.
Sure, yeah, I certainly can. So this is something that I'm trying to check out more of and look at how can we present information to our users. That's really been our goal. And how can we make it more readily accessible? I think there's kind of two goals that as we've been thinking about what's our purpose and what's our drive. The first one is fundamentally how do we democratize the data, as I like to call it. And so over on the Discord channel, we got a fun little Power BI reports page. Go check that out. I'd love some feedback. I've done Power BI for lightly now for maybe about a year, and I'm really excited to continue to dive into this. So again, if you check out Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms over on the Power BI reports little tab here that we have in the ADFK website, please check that out. Trying to show some useful information. We have a database that just has hero data readily accessible, and hoping to allow users to export that into Excel if you want to go ahead and that way you don't have to scrape the blockchain yourself. We'll do that for you, and we'll try to get it into a usable format. A big question that I get on a frequent basis is, how do I see R1 easily on multiple heroes that I'm trying to look up at once? And so you can do that there. And then we're trying to replicate some reports where we're looking at stats, number of heroes out there, total in DeFi Kingdoms, number of heroes summoned per period of time as well. Right now I have average price per different professions and average price per different classes, and I'm hoping to transform that eventually into a floor price tool. That formula is proving to be a little tricky for me to write at the moment, but I know it's absolutely doable. So I'm hopeful for that. And it's one of those things where sometimes you build something that you feel will benefit you in hopes that it'll benefit more people outside of yourself. So that's the short of it on Power BI. So yeah, looking forward to some feedback from our listeners and viewers out there. Back to you, Neindorf.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think even back in, I don't know if it was late December when I first got access to the third party dev APIs, and it's kind of a software guy, I was able to dig in and kind of mine that data, and I was like, whoa, what's this advanced active and passive abilities? And I feel like we shed the light on that like way early, because it's like one of those things that I'd happened to notice that there were some of those heroes being held in wallets of like the devs. And I was like, ooh, this is important. And it's like that sort of information we just want to get out to our listeners and make sure that everybody's got the most up-to-date information.
And I'm just thinking now. I trailed off. I said there's our two goals, and I think I only listed one. So our first goal is how do we democratize the data, make it more readily accessible to everyone. Second goal is really what we've done with Neindorf and the DFK website. And so one part is it brings data to you. The other part is how can we create a tool that allows it to be more, create some efficiencies in your life. And that's your tavern alert system in a nutshell. You could spend 10 hours a day scraping the tavern, just waiting for that hero to drop, constantly clicking the refresh button. But that's where the alert system really comes into play. Is we're also hoping to provide tools that can enhance your efficiency of how you interface with the game, and that's really our two main goals. Sorry I interrupted there.
No, you're just fine. Yeah, and then so the last item that we've been working on is the replacing, not necessarily replacing, but giving an option for users just to elect Discord messaging instead of emails for their alerts from the tavern. I've got that pushed out to a test server that we run, and that's working pretty well. So look forward to that in the next, I would say, day probably. I should be able to push that out. And if it's confusing to anybody, just let me know, and I think that's one of the things that as a more of an embedded engineer, I have a hard time with some of the user interface stuff sometimes, and it seems obvious to me because I wrote it. So everybody, please feel free, DM us on Discord. Let us know if something doesn't make sense, and we'll try to get it cleaned up for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been, the lucky guinea pig, I guess, using the alerts in Discord. I like it a lot more than email. It's been working well for me. TitanTom, let's ask you a quick question here. So what are you currently using for alerts, and maybe what has been your most recent buy based on the alert system?
So I love the alerts. I think I hit up Nindor a couple of weeks ago, just asking how I could get access to it, and maybe you guys could shed light on what the easiest way for them to do that is. But I think you just sub the podcast and then message you guys or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. We do have a so the podcast is on Anchor. That'll be in the show notes, both in YouTube and whether you're getting Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Anchor. You'll be able to. It'll direct you to the Anchor website, and you can go ahead and subscribe there. You can also DM us directly, and we'll accept direct payment. And eventually, here sometime in the next, 1 to 2 months, we'll see how things go. But we are planning on switching the payment system over directly to the website. That'll be it'll be a little easier to use. I think a lot of our international patrons out there, they've been struggling with, not on their behalf, but the Anchor website system has been kind of locking them out, not accepting their credit card information. So making it a bit of a hassle for everyone involved. So, we'd really like to just tie it directly to the site. I think it just makes it a lot easier, and will make it a lot more straightforward. So, again, we've talked about this a couple of podcasts back, and we're going to try to give everyone ample notice. We're going to go ahead and cancel any Anchor subscriptions that are out there well before we require people to start the subscription up on the website. We're not in the business to double charge anyone. So that's kind of our long-term plan. In the short term, sub on Anchor, support us there, or go ahead and message us in Discord, and we'll get you a link to the access system. So you got to give us a little more than that, though, TitanTom. So what heroes have you picked up?
Yeah, just straight away, just saying I love the alert system. It's awesome. And I'm really super excited about having it in the Discord DMs too, because my email isn't always alerted. Like I have it, I check it a couple times a day, but Discord is more urgent. So I'm excited to have that up so you guys get that running. But I've got I snagged a couple of nice ones. I think I got a uncommon Dragoon for like 120.
Nice.
Tavern.
That's a good deal.
Ago. And then I think I got one of my rare advance doing that too. It was at a pretty cheap price. a lot of times the alerts that I have set are kind of too stringent. So I'll get the alert and then I'll run to the tavern and it'll already be gone. So it's like that good of a deal, but definitely get the alert. And one of these times I'm going to get it.
Yeah, those bots will get you.
I know, right?
Yes, they certainly will. All right,
Yeah,
so
but
go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry, the price of subbing for the podcast, it pays for itself. I mean, the alerts are incredible. They're going to save you, that much money easily in the first purchase you make, right? So,
Although I will say it's a little addicting, so it's as Neindorf has called before, it does remove the jewel very effectively from my wallet.
Oh yeah, too many times. It's funny because I think Raph, you and I have some very similar alerts. So I'll see it, I'll look at my phone, and be like, nah. And then like 5 minutes later, I'll be like, oh, I just picked up this guy, and I was like, yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a funny story about that when I was eating my dinner, like out in my living room. I just got a nice big bowl of poke, like the large size with 5 scoops of protein. I got an alert on my email. There was a rare sage, 3 out of 3. We're going for 290, which is just an incredible offer. So I spit out my food, left my food on the table, ran into my computer to try to move some liquidity over so I can make the purchase. I saw that it was still on there, and then right when I was like moving on the purchase, somebody snagged it right before me, and I was gutted, I was like, oh man, I didn't get it. I walked back into my living room, and my dog ate my whole bowl of poke. So I just left it there. I was like in a rush. I was like, oh god.
Oh jeez.
Not only did I not get the purchase, but my dog ate my dinner.
All right, you want to know something even better? Is so I had a bit of a boo-boo over the last month here. I was accidentally, I was in putting the kids to bed, the Gen 1s, and as I like to call them, endearingly so. And I was going through the heroes that I had listed for sale. And I was, canceling, relisting, and of course, getting distracted with the Gen 1s kind of, going crazy, being rowdy, as they do before bedtime. And I accidentally sold my Gen, or my rare sage. And I listed it for what I thought was going to be the higher price, because mentally, what I did is, because when you're in the sale section, you can hit cancel higher, and then what I did is I listed it for sale for the higher price that I thought I was going for. And so I believe you were looking at my wonderful rare sage that I accidentally dropped, and I had a little bit of a freak out moment. I ended up liquidating some from the gardens and buying it back, and it was a bit of a boo-boo because I lost about 150 jewel in the entire transaction. I might have been a little more than that, but yeah, it was one of those where it's like, oh, that one, I felt a little nauseous and sick for a while, and I didn't even know if I should go back and grab it or not. But as I was telling Neindorf, I had a little bit of an attachment issue to this sage. It was my first, and he's level 5 as well, so oh boy. So I don't know, maybe it was a different sage that you found, but that was I don't know, pretty ironic that you brought that up. Might have been the same one.
I was about to say too that the salt was rubbed in the wound, because I saw it immediately relisted for like 430, and then it was bought, and then it was immediately relisted again for 480 right after that.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like my friend. That's for sure.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. That Raph, you and I talked offline, and if I ever get some downtime here, we've actually really considered putting out. So some of the code that we have that the site runs on for auctions is already scraping and watching blockchain events. We're really considering putting out a bot to purchase to try to find these people who list heroes for accidentally way below floor, and give them back to their owners. We just saw recently another Gen Zero that got sold for what was it, 20 Jewel,
20
I
Jewel.
think it was.
Yep.
And like, we want this community to be fun. And that's one of those like the financial chaos of selling a Gen Zero. It was a legendary Gen Zero for
Legendary
20
Gen
Jewel.
Zero Warrior. Yeah.
And like we I think it's since I have the capability of writing such a bot, I wanted to compete with the other bots that are just trying to make money.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're really thinking about launching. And if I have some downtime between features, because I don't know, that just makes you want to throw up when you hear people that have made that mistake. It's kind of winning by cheat, and
Right. Right.
so that's just I wanted to mention that because it's something that you and I had talked
Yeah.
quite a while about after that happened.
Yeah, we're gonna call it our Gen Zero Rescue Program. Yeah, I actually had a few people in the community reach out to me and say, "Hey, do you know anyone who runs these bots? This guy's trying to get his Gen Zero hero back." He's like, "Did you hear about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, we saw it right away with the notification that popped up, and we were looking at it, and I was like, oh man, I started feeling sick to my stomach for this guy. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And every once in a while on the alert system, we'll get alerts for private sales as well, or maybe you disabled that.
Yeah, I fixed that now, but
Okay.
you used to get those.
So I thought that's what it was. I was at work. I was like 20 minutes late on the alert, and I went to check it out, and I started messaging you, and I was like, oh, goodness gracious, this guy's got to be in a world of hurt right now. So, yeah, I mean, we were certainly feeling for him. I mean, not as much as his wallet was, but yeah, we're going to try to create a Gen Zero rescue hero program. I think if we could save a few more people from, a similar fate. I mean, thankfully my Sage mishap, it was not that painful. Yeah, that's miserable. So I hope the guy that has the bot does the right thing, gets it back to him. I'm a little worried that's not going to happen. But yeah, hoping to create a better place here in the community. Big thanks to you, Neindorf. You definitely have the technical know-how for that. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about pajamas now. So
Yeah, that's what it was, right?
Yeah, so like I promised, we're not going to dive through the notes. If you go into the DFK docs page, you can look at what the perilous journey statistics are, what the rate of how perilous it's going to be, and what the rewards are if you survive and if you die. So let's go for some straight up reactions. TitanTom, let's start with you. What was kind of your gut reaction? I guess first off, were you able to listen live, and then what was your gut reaction if you did?
Yeah, I did listen live. I was kind of reading through, skipping ahead on the doc as he was reading it, and my initial reaction was, oh man, this doesn't seem as good as I thought it was going to be. But then after he went through and explained everything, I was kind of like, maybe this is actually better than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, it's kind of a whirlwind of emotions, I guess you could say, as he was going through that. It was kind of I feel like this is going to be a pretty, big decision that could steer the direction for a lot of people on, on their DFK future.
All right, Neindorf.
What's your gut? Are you going to send some people? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to think about it some more, but my gut right now is that I'm probably going to send about 75% of my heroes.
Wow, nice.
I'm just going to keep basically my best ones. I don't know if you wanted me to go through some of my strategy thoughts on that right now, but
yeah, let's jump in.
We'll circle back around.
Yeah, we'll jump into that in a little bit. Neindorf, what's your immediate reaction?
Yeah, so my first thing was I was happy that that level played a part in the percentages and the rewards. I was kind of disappointed that it was not as prevalent as rarity and your advanced or elite classes. I think from a lore perspective, it actually makes a lot more sense. If somebody's got experience, it's not a green hero, if you will. So I was a little upset by that. People have put time and quested these heroes out, but that doesn't actually make all that much difference. So that was my first reaction. My second reaction is I was really hoping that that summons remaining were going to be calibrated in. Like maybe it's your attunement with Gaia is still there, and she'll be on your side to help your hero survive. Um, and that just did not figure in at all. Which I'm not really surprised. I was just kind of on the off chance that that would happen, really hoping. Because I got a couple heroes that have several summons left. I have no intention of summoning with them now, but now they're basically off the list for the journey because I don't want to waste that. There's no payment for it. So those are my two big things that stuck out to me, honestly.
Yeah, the main thing that stuck out to me, I thought most of the rewards were fairly lackluster. It's the newest reward, what they had kind of held back from the announcement last week, and we'll get into this a lot more in the combat corner. But the plus 5 stats or plus 5 to 3 different stats of your choice, right? That
That's
stuck out
huge.
to me as holy moly! Like this is a risky chance that allows your hero to be potentially a combat god. I think whether it bumps you, it essentially takes you and it makes you what 3 levels better, right? I mean, 1 level by the experience points that you gain for going on the trip and coming back, and then essentially if you're earning 7 stat points per level up, which we've seen approximately be out there. I mean, some people claim it's 5 stats point level up, but yeah, that's another 2 levels right there. So 3 levels total, just by going on the journey. And so like that stuck out to me. I was like, holy cow! If you're gonna plan on going after the land, and not just in their special land, 1v1 contest for this, for survivors only, but any kind of land in the future, or you're trying to get into combat in a big way. I was like, wow, that's a chance to send some guys and really make a big difference there.
Yeah, I think one more thing now that I'm thinking back on it that I was really surprised at, and they're talking about, the survivors get crystal drops, airdrops.
Hmm.
I was honestly very surprised by the exponential curve that that amount had. I
Hmm.
think a level 1 basic, I'm just pulling it up here, a level 1 basic common hero has 18 crystal if they make it. An exalted mythic, so a mythic dread knight is almost 1300. I'm like, that seems very exaggerated, but then you think about the curve of the price point in which you purchase a hero, say, and it probably follows the same exponential curve. So, here I am saying it's interesting, and then now I'm saying that maybe it's not that interesting. So I think the devs did a fantastic job of balancing this, I guess is my takeaway.
Yeah,
Yes.
surprise, surprise, the devs got something right.
Right.
So, TitanTom, let's go through your strategy right now. You're thinking about, did you say 75% of your hero stable?
Uh, that was a joke on the devs. Like they've done everything extremely well. Of course, it's fantastic. Just for those who are new to DFK, and the devs have been amazing. That's why I say that. But
Yeah, we're still hoping to get Tango on. I bumped into him, like I said, on ETH Denver there. So I'm I haven't messaged him yet, but I want to touch base with him maybe in the next week or so. And I'd love to get him on the podcast. I think he'd be a great addition, and he was really fun to talk to. So
yeah, yeah. I'm,
Definitely.
I'm thinking of sending around 3/4 of my heroes, but I need to preface that by saying that a lot of my heroes are already sort of in that category of heroes that are good to send in my mind because I don't have any mythics or legendaries currently. And so a lot of mine are either rare advanced, uncommon advanced, uncommon basics, which I think is going to be like the best bang for your buck in terms of the perilous journey. Um, and so I had a lot of my heroes already are just kind of right in that sweet spot of value, I think, to do this. So I guess that's why my percentage is probably higher than others. Like I have a couple of friends with some mythics, and I told them I was like I would not send a mythic. There's no way.
yeah, it's pretty risky. Yeah, a mythic, even a basic, doesn't have all that high of a chance, which is, you know, I think it's Mythic Basic.
60%.
It looks like about 59 to
59.
60.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in the low 60s. So,
Yeah.
that's crazy for a Mythic hero to have barely over a 50% chance. That's kind of frightening, because what's the floor price on a Mythic is like
300.
300 and some.
320. I'm actually
Wow.
going a bit counter strategy here. I'm almost thinking I might go buy a Mythic Basic. There's one that's a level 3.5 that I think I could push to 5. That I could get up to a 63% chance. And I guess
Interesting.
my thought process is, not from the crystal rewards, but from that combat reward standpoint, is I'm starting to think more so, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and say combat corners kind of blending into the perilous journey here.
Yeah.
But I need to do a lot more stats analysis. But I think this was triggered by on Sandwich's podcast when they had Petrify on, and they were talking about the potential balance of heroes and hero classes in the future. One of the things that he was drawing attention to is that the basic classes might not be totally out of the running in terms of being viable in the future, even against some of your advanced, elite, or transcendent classes. So, I'm trying to. We are still in the very early stages of looking at the hero stat growth data, but I'd really like to look at potentially grabbing a floor price, basic, mythic, sending them out on the journey. I kind of think about it as that it is a lot. It is a huge investment, 350 jewel, or 320 jewel. But if they survive, getting that +5 on a mythic that will continue to gain that +5 stat boost every 5 levels as well. I don't know, like that. It's very tempting in my mind. I think I'm really on the combat train here. I have 4 legendaries, and I'm thinking about sending all of them.
I think you're onto something. So I only actually have one mythic that I summoned. I mean, and it's a warrior. He's got 2 summons left, but he's a high gen, so I don't ever really plan to use him. But my point of this guy was he was going to be my tank, right? And I think you bring up a valid point where if I get to choose where those 3+5s go, I'm going to choose, vitality,
Endurance,
strength, and endurance.
right?
And so that +5 vitality on his subsequent level ups is going to give him huge amounts of HP.
He's going to be a monster.
And he is. And, I wasn't going to send him, but now you got me talked into it here all of a sudden. It's just kind of how this goes right now. But I think the other thing that kind of ties in with it, to your point about common basics being sleepers, you got to remember too that just the sheer quantity of basic heroes that there are, and so when you're leveling up these basic heroes, the RNG tells you that there's going to be a handful of common mythics that get really good level up rolls, and you're going to get Dread Knights that get really crappy level up rolls. Even though they have a higher chance to roll, doesn't mean they're going to roll it. So I think you're right. And then the mythic also is guaranteed every 5 levels to have that high level of stat boost,
right?
Which a common Dread Knight is never going to have. So, I mean, you're bringing all this together here. Now I think I'm going to change my mind about 8 times in this podcast.
And probably. All right. So, Tom, we're thinking about, putting our chips all in. You're the poker player. Tell us why we're stupid.
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, I think the devs have sort of arranged it to where you can, sort of decide for yourself what the risk reward is for you in your situation. I don't think, I think that's sort of a personal idea or personal opinion on how, risky you want to be with it, because I think it's, somewhere in the middle there. But in terms of, if there's some listeners out there that have no idea who to send, and like what type of hero to send, if they're thinking about sending some and not sending others. I did have a few thoughts about that just for them. I think Neindorf mentioned earlier, but he's got, a bunch of these guys that are, Gen 1, 10 out of 10s or whatever, with a lot of summons. And I think the first heroes you should consider sending are ones with 0 summons or low summons left,
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's right.
You
You've
know,
extracted that value, right?
Yeah, because like basically, this whole thing is going to be that I'm going to say is like, you want to send the heroes that are least amount of value that you could get in the tavern, right? Because the other ones you could just sell for a high amount of jewel. Like for instance, you had an uncommon ninja gardener versus an uncommon paladin miner. Like you would send the ninja gardener on the journey every single time over the
Absolutely.
paladin gardener, right?
Yeah,
So
good
like
point.
so like mismatched professions, I think, are really good candidates to sell as well as low summons. So like the ninja gardener, or like the thief forger, or or whatever. And
Summoner
then
Miner.
yeah, like
Steve the Pirate, as we call him on our podcast.
yeah, the Dark Knight Fisher, those types of heroes, I think are good candidates to send.
Well, so
And then
that's fascinating because that
yeah,
tells me that if we all do this and we play this game, we actually can kind of modify the pool of heroes and sort of almost eliminate that class of non-matching profession almost. Not fully, but you can help trim it a lot at least. My mind's blown again.
We're
maybe,
complicit in genocide here. This is
Yeah,
a little
right. Oh,
scary,
yeah. Whoops.
a little frightening
yeah.
here.
I mean, because you got to think too, right? Like mismatched professions. Not only are they, are the paladin miner. Not only is it going to be fairly equal in combat, because combat doesn't matter with your profession, right?
Right.
So mismatched heroes are good to send on the perilous journey. A, because
Lower
if they
risk, higher reward. I like it.
yeah, if they die, they're less valuable. And B, like they'll still be pretty good in combat because their profession doesn't matter.
I like it. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that wrinkle. Definitely on board with the use up their summons train. I'm actually doing that with all my legendaries right now. I stopped on most of them around the somewhere between 4 and 5 summons mark. And so I'm actually going through and depleting those here over the next week or so as we prepare for the PJs.
Yeah, and I mean the other, thing that is probably obvious, but when heroes return from the journey, they get a full XP bar. So
Hmm.
you definitely want to send heroes that have just recently been leveled. Not the ones that are almost leveled. So as the journey gets closer, if you have some stamina potions that you want to use to finish up and get those guys leveled up before they go on the journey, that would obviously be key, right?
Yeah, and there's a window of time between when you can start sending them and when you can stop sending them, and then there's a window of time when everyone goes on the journey. And so that during that first window when you can send them, it's like they're going to be listed in the tavern, and so you can no longer quest with them. And so it might behoove you to try to use up that last remaining bit of time to go capture that final level, so you can maximize that full XP bar that TitanTom is referring to.
Yeah, and if Neindorf was concerned that a couple of his heroes had too many summons to send, I would just start now, renting those out at floor prices, trying to get rid of all the summons. If you already know that you're going to send them or you want to send them, just start renting them out now.
Yeah, or
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
a good point.
and Neindorf, you alerted this to me yesterday. Sandwich was going over a Gen 1 strategy on his podcast last night and on Twitter. Walk us through what that is real quick. I think that's like kind of the alternate to summoning. Instead, you could, or excuse me, alternate to hiring is you just bang out the summons with those Gen 1s, right?
Yeah, so I think his premise was the fact that the floor price on 10 out of 10 Gen 1s is at pretty much an all-time low. I think it's like 80 jewel. You can get a 10 out of 10 Gen 1 right now. Um, for Gen 0 holders, that sucks, but for people who want to buy a hero and, like you said, just summon a whole bunch of new heroes, you can kick out if you're able to purchase, say, 2 or 4 of those, you can kick out potentially 20 heroes and send all of them for an investment of maybe 400 jewel, which, I mean, that sounds like a lot, but even if the odds are in your favor, if you get 15 summons, you're gonna get you might very well get a legendary or two out of that. I mean, you might you can recoup a lot of your value with a couple good rolls. And he was saying he was even paying no attention to matching profession, just floor price, just mix and match and see what you get because they're all worth jewel. They're all going to be worth um, runes on the other side if they win or if they make it or they don't make it. Um, and then also, like I think there's also something to be said for that RNG roll. You can get lucky.
Yeah, and those Gen 1 1010s with the current jewel price at crashing to 482 right now, it's $385 for a 4 Gen 1 1010.
Wow, that's crazy low.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, let's go ahead and slide into the combat corner section. We talked a little bit about gaining stats and allowing your heroes to be prepped for combat. You drew our attention, TitanTom, to a note that Hubert said, and someone in our DFK Discord, Adventures in DFK Discord, dropped a screenshot of that. Do you want to go ahead and read us through, the Hubert Alpha that's coming out there? And I always love Sandwich's term for this, the sacred texts of Hubert. And so, what are we looking at as that information? And what should we be thinking about?
Yeah, should I just read it out? Because I don't think it's anything that was.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, so he just dropped basically the details of how the land tournaments were going to go. So he was talking in the chat after, and he said this. Each tournament will be a specific contest centered around one stat. Some lands will be a contest of intelligence, others vitality, etc. You will have a modified stat score that will include bonuses if your hero has one or both of the stat genes tied to that stat. The actual tournament will be a 1 versus 1 where those modified stat scores are compared, and the hero with the higher score will have a higher chance of success. It will still be RNG based, so a low strength wizard could potentially knock out a high strength Dark Knight. It will have multiple rounds until only one hero is left. So I kind of interpret that kind of like a March Madness style bracket with like seedings almost.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
for
absolutely.
sure.
And so are they talking about these skills and abilities that we've been referring to? We just don't really know what they mean yet. Is that what they're referring to?
No, I think it's the actual stats, right?
Just stats for skills themselves?
Yeah.
And they did say the stats were going to be king.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, something that stuck out to me here as note, and I think he said this at one point during the ETH Denver presentation as well, is that they are going to make the green and blue stats count for something else. And so I think in combat, that means, if you have a Dark Knight with boosted strength, that whatever the way that they create their calculation formula to see if you beat someone else in combat, I think it's going to be both your base strength stat and the fact that you have a blue, green, or a purple. I think it's going to add more to whatever that combination is. And so, I think you're going to want to look at hopefully that formula or that equation comes out there. And, kind of like he directly calls out, maybe there are going to be some wizards that have boosted strength out there that, maybe they'll get a little RNGesus on their side and be able to come through. So, TitanTom, I guess this stuck out to you enough to call it out to us. I guess what's your preliminary analysis on this?
Well, one of my friends was saying, oh, I don't want to send my legendary thief because he has super high luck, and that's just like kind of a special quality of that hero. Well, after reading this, it's almost like, well, if they're going to run a land tournament that's luck specific, like I think the way I'm interpreting it is that there's going to be like a strength tournament, a vitality tournament, intelligence tournament, a luck tournament, and you get to choose which one do you want to enter, right? So like you can enter your wizard with pink intelligence in the intelligence tournament if you want to for like I'm sure it's going to be like jewel fee to enter the tournament, right? And so I think if you do have a hero that has like an especially high number in a certain stat, it might be worth sending them on the journey actually, because if he gets through and is able to enter this sort of tournament, he can have a big advantage.
I like that. Nine-Dwarf, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's all great. One thing that I had kind of thought of as you guys were talking, I'd heard someone in our Discord and mentioned recently that the green and the blue stats are effectively worthless, and that kind of resonated with me. And then I did remember that, yeah, you're right. That's something that the devs had talked about the other week, that they're going to make that come back. And I fully suspect that you'll see skill trees or something in the future where um, the blue and the purple might actually, and green might unlock new skills. I think they're going to play a role more than they currently play. So honestly, at this point, I would write off absolutely nothing in the genetics of the hero as being worthless because the devs will make sure it has a place and they will make sure it's balanced. Like I feel like that's their mission in life, is to have us think things don't matter and then be like, nope, just kidding. They all matter.
So my Paladin Fisher with a desert background still has a chance. Yes.
So we should just go all in on the monks now.
That's right. All in on the monks. Absolutely.
Yeah, I will say, we've been kind of a little bit of monk apologists here, but this kind of, I would say the monks, I mean, don't really stand out with this style of tournament because they're not going to specialize in any one thing in particular. And as we've speculated before, and I think they've come out and outright said that certain tournaments are going to happen, and there's going to be not only like you're kind of talking about TitanTom, but potentially some jewel entry fee. But I think there's also going to be like a real life time entry fee where it might take you, and this was your idea first, Neindorf, but it might take you a stamina bar and it might take you 2 real life days to travel from one part of a map to another. That way you can't be in all the different tournaments at once, and so I think that'll play into it as well. And I guess monks really are kind of getting the short end of the stick here, being the generalists. They might struggle really standing out in any one tournament.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think that's one of those things right now where we're like, oh, they're not good because they don't have boosted stats. And that's another one of those prime examples where like, nah, you just wait till you see their skills. They'll be good. Don't worry. They don't need balance is fine for a monk, I suspect. I think that'll play well to their skill sets. So that's just another prime example.
Yeah. All right. Well, what else do we have to go over on the combat corner? Anything else that you guys want to discuss? Maybe Tom, you go first. TitanTom, are you there?
I don't think I had anything to add. No.
All right, Neindorf. Any kind of closing combat remarks?
I think all I really have that we haven't really maybe mentioned is, we're kind of reiterating the importance of stats. And I think I want to tie it back to what we started off talking with, our dev dive. I think we're going to try to keep working on tools to get you some analysis and stats. And, we did add that ability when you're looking at hero data. You punch in a hero number and you enter it in, and you're able to see what his average number of stat gains he's gotten through his leveling. So we're going to keep trying to add more and more of that data. I think that's going to be where it's king. Data is going to be king in the future of this game, especially as kind of an idle combat where it's strategy up front and not necessarily strategy on the fly. So I think, keep looking out and giving us suggestions, but we're going to try to get more and more data in you guys' hands.
I couldn't agree more. It's I'm really excited about the future. Actually really. So let's talk about idle combat, and then we can close up for the night. I'm actually really looking forward to idle combat. I think that there is an incredible amount of chess game methodology that can be incorporated into selecting your heroes, your party, the skills, the order of those skills that they're going to use, and then being able to potentially interface with them on kind of an intermediate basis during the battle. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. What do you think, TitanTom?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to see what kind of PvE quests come out. Just so that each class is going to have kind of their own quest, and then in terms of the the P versus P, where you can kind of reset your skill points. Like I think Hubert said, each hero has their own skill points that they can.
Mm-hmm.
I interpreted it that you can realign the skill points for each battle that you get into in the way that you want to. So I think there's going to be. I'm hoping at least coming from a poker background that in a game of skill that I hope there's some skill involved in the battling process, because I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think there will be, and I think there's going to be a really healthy metagame that develops with strategies, counter strategies, counter strategies, to the heroes that you want to bring, and they've referenced time and again that they are balancing the classes for combat. So like you said, Nidorf, if the monk may not look hot now, but maybe he'll really he'll play some strong cards with his abilities.
That's right. He might be the snake to the mongoose, or is it the mongoose to the snake? I forget, but
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it for us here from the Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms. Good luck out to you, adventurers, and thank you to TitanTom for joining us, and thank you, Nidor, for your continued work on the podcast and on the website.
My pleasure. Enjoy, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.